How are you,
Good
sir?
stuff. Man, I am living the dream, man. It's always awesome. These fight camps are so crazy because they start off, you have this long road ahead of you, and then all of a sudden you get within these last 2 weeks, you're chomping at the bit. I'm ready to fight tomorrow, ready to make weight tomorrow. So I'm just on cloud nine, man. Everything's firing on all cylinders, and I'm ready to go.
Are you ever not jacked and happy?
Yeah. Well, a couple of years ago when I went three losses in a row, 688 days without a win, I had a nice little rough patch back then. But since then, recalibrated, reconditioned, and ready to go. So no, man, life is extremely good. I'm just extremely blessed. So I'm extremely blessed to be able to do what I do. So thank you for these kinds of opportunities, man. This is awesome.
All right, so let's talk about this. I always want to do this whenever I reconnect with you because I can never keep it straight. I know you were building a gym in Nashville, but you tell me you're in Florida. So what's the training situation you're currently in? What's the arrangement?
So I'm currently in someone else's home down in Florida, sleeping in someone else's bed down here in a VRBO vacation rental. I was just in Nashville this past weekend, mainly to see my wife and son because going too long without seeing them is just not good for my heart, you know. So it's one of those things where I've got such a great opportunity and such a short window of opportunity and such a great training scenario down here with Henry Hooft and Greg Jones and Kami Barzini and these coaches, and then the training partners from guys at the top of the UFC, guys at the top of Bellator, that I'm kind of back and forth, you know. But I do have training camp in my gym in Nashville, which is thriving and doing awesome with our MMA programs and our group fitness. I actually just went back this past weekend and ran one of our classes, our Iron Pow classes. So I love connecting with them. We got an awesome group there, and I got an awesome kind of Florida family down here and Tennessee family up there, fitness community. So it's life is good. I'm kind of between both places, but when it comes down to training for this fight, I'm down here most of the time.
All right, that makes sense. Is the goal to someday just have everything in Nashville?
You know, I always go back and forth. But yeah, the goal is to build. I mean, we have 3,500 square foot of mat space, 20 bags. We have a world class mixed martial arts training facility as well as a world class group fitness facility. So I mean, we have everything we need to build an awesome, phenomenal team in Nashville. We just opened 7 months ago, so obviously these things are going to take time. But as I continue to grow the MMA program, as I continue to hire great coaches, recruit great training partners. The goal is to be able to have a full-time, stable training environment there. And then, I mean, Henry Hooft and these guys, Kami and Greg, these guys are the coaches, going to be my coaches, I think, for the rest of my career. So I will never get away from them. So I will always be with them and training with them for these fights. So it'll be interesting.
You hopped around early in your career, earlier, I should say, and now you seem kind of steady. What changed?
You know, I think one thing, and I was talking to, I don't forget who I was talking about the other day. When you talk about loyalty or you talk about, you know, team or camaraderie or this or that, I mean, at the end of the day, this is a individual sport. I am smart enough to realize that I have a short window of opportunity, and if I sacrifice that short window of opportunity because of quote unquote loyalty or quote unquote this or quote unquote that, I'm really doing a disservice to myself, my wife, and who was my future child at the time, but now is my son. And to sacrifice that, I just wasn't going to do it. So hopping around for me was what's the best training situation, the best training scenario for me, for the individual. And if I'm firing on all cylinders, if I'm where I need to be, happy, healthy, and hard to kill, that's going to elevate whatever team I'm with. That's going to put my family in a financially stable situation. And at the end of the day, this is an individual sport. I will be the first to admit that I am selfish, but I will also be the first guy to get my shirt off my back and be the guy who comes in early with you or stays late with you and gives myself to the team and whatever team that I'm with. So this sport and looking at the sport like a business and a professional athlete, a professional fighter, you have to find that fine line between juggling your individual goals and needs with the individual or the goals of the team that you're with as a whole. And I've tried to do that, and I've been a favorite and a fun guy and a leader in every single gym that I've been in, and it's working well for me, and I don't plan on stopping now.
You ever faced any blowback for jumping around?
What's blowback, man? It's 2018, man. We're getting blowback right now for the shirt I'm wearing and the fact that walls are white and the fact that you got a black shirt on. I mean, everyone has an opinion. Everyone wants to say something, but at the end of the day, this sport's about me, and I'm not afraid to admit that. And I think anybody who has been in the sport long enough realizes that I'm the talent, I'm the fighter, I step in the cage. I can't do it without my coaches, my training partners, my support system, but I have to make the best decision. So the blowback doesn't mean a thing. Everybody's getting blowback, whether you're at the top, the bottom, or somewhere in the middle. So you get in this sport long enough, you get thick enough skin to realize that what people are saying doesn't really matter, and things are working well for me, and you can hate me from afar and blowback as long as you want.
So that's a yes.
That's a yeah. No, kinda. Kinda. But that's kind of the thing. Everyone loves to insert their opinions. So it's kind of one of those things where I'm enjoying the ride and enjoying anything that anybody says about me.
All right, so let's talk about something that's kind of interesting that's happened. I was bringing it up, noting that you're going to be fighting in Hawaii against Brent Primus. I want to talk about that in just a second. But you're an interesting case, and here's what I mean. So the UFC appears to be letting their clutch on the reins of all the talent in MMA glow a little bit. Bellator's made some key acquisitions. You know about all of them. Sage Northcutt just signed with one. Eddie Alvarez, your former opponent, signed with one. Demetrius Johnson, and some others. But they're still a little bit different, right? Because Sage is kind of pre-prime, and I meant this before. It's not a slight, but I don't think Alvarez and Demetrius Johnson, while still very, very good fighters, I don't think they're at their absolute peak. But you did spend your prime, and currently in your prime, outside of the UFC. But it seems to have worked out for you. Like, when you look around at MMA now, like, do you look back on your experience and staying with Bellator? I'm going to guess you have no regrets about it, but I'm wondering if you could speak about it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I have any regrets. I'd be lying to say that my head doesn't hit the pillow and I don't think about these matchups that could possibly await me in my future, or I could have taken the opportunity to take the reins of had I tested free agency and looked at other possibilities. But that mainly comes from the fans. That mainly comes from everybody constantly reaching out to me and tweeting and saying, dream matchup this, dream matchup that. Now we're talking about trades. Oh, God, I want to see Khabib and Chandler, and I want to see this and this guy and Chandler, and blah, blah, blah. So, of course, it plants that what if in your head. But, man, when you talk about making a business decisions, when you talk about slowly but surely, brick by boring brick, building a brand that's going to last and building a brand that is going to be extremely lucrative for the short window of opportunity. And I keep bringing up a short window of opportunity because you're a downright fool if you think that this is a long career and that it can't be all snatched away from you at a moment's notice. So you have to make the best decision you can with the information that you're given. And I've done that time and time again. Myself, my management, we've protected ourselves. We put ourselves in good scenarios. I've made myself somewhat of an indispensable asset by being the greatest employee Bellator has ever had and probably will ever have when you talk about talent, excitement, and composure outside of the cage and being a good brand ambassador outside of the cage. And it's simple. It's simple. A plus B equals C. You do the right thing. You work extremely hard. You put on exciting fights. You make yourself an indispensable asset. And, when people come knocking at the door, you figure out what's next, and you see what's next. And by the way, I'm by no means a young spring chicken, but I'm by no means even close to past my prime. I think I'm still getting faster, still getting stronger, still getting more athletic. I'm eating my chicken and broccoli. I'm drinking my supplements. I'm taking care of my body. This body will last till I'm 37, 38, 40 years old if I want it to. I think my best days of fighting are still years ahead of me. So if you think that this last contract that I signed was the last contract that I'm going to sign, you're sorely mistaken. I have a lot of gas left in the tank, a lot of big matchups in my future, and I'm excited to see how everything unfolds.
Darian Caldwell, the bantamweight champion of Bellator, is going to be heading over to Japan, taking on Kyoji Horiguchi. You must have seen that, because I know you, Michael. You must have seen that and thought, ooh, I need to call Scott. I need to put that on his radar. That might be something I'm interested in doing, right?
Immediately, man. I got the opportunity, the blessing of fighting Akihiro Gono and retiring him. Like, I was that young guy coming up, and he was a guy who was a little bit, kind of, I think, maybe past his prime. And his last fight was against me, and I finished him the first round. And with that, and the couple of the Japanese fans that I've spoken to, or the Japanese managers that I've spoken to, they're like, man, you got a huge following over in Japan. People love you because of that Gono fight, blah, blah, blah. I would love to headline show at the Saitama, what's it called? Saitama Arena.
Saitama Super Arena. Yeah.
Saitama Super Arena in a ring, maybe wearing wrestling shoes if that's still allowed. Like something like that. I mean, these days, I mean, it's about the big fights, the big opportunities, the eyeballs. It's about what gets me excited. Fighting Patricky Pitbull for the third time doesn't get me excited. Fighting David Rickles for the third time doesn't get me excited. Like there's a couple fights. There's definitely fights in the lightweight division that get me excited. Some of these young guys coming up, Patricio down at 45, some of the guys up at 70. I mean, there's some definite things that get me excited, and Bellator has continued to sign, like as you alluded to earlier, sign top tier talent, and not just guys that are over the hill, but Ryan Bader, who was ranked top 5 in the world whenever he came over. Same thing with Phil Davis and Benson Henderson, Rory MacDonald, and this welterweight tournament. Bellator, and I knew this last contract I signed, and then this contract I signed. Bellator has continued to evolve and continue to grow and continue to put the right pieces in place. And just because Bellator wasn't where it was at when people wanted it to be where it was at, it's continued to grow and continue to build. And we got some legitimate mixed martial arts promotions out there. It's not just the UFC anymore. So it's exciting. It's exciting to see the growth of everything. And yes, I want cross promotions. I want trades. I want all kinds of different things happening. I want this MMA landscape to turn back into the wild west, and let's have some fun, man.
Last question about this before we get to your Primus fight. We're running short on time here a little bit. Did Rory MacDonald in his fight against Mousasi dissuade you a little bit about moving up?
I wouldn't say that fight. I mean, I wouldn't say that fight in general. I mean, if you're talking about a smaller opponent going up and fighting a bigger opponent, I mean, yeah, of course, that's always the fear. That's always the scary part about coming up. Rory's 6'2" and 199 pounds probably. But I just want big fights. I want exciting fights. It's exciting to see. I'm excited to watch this welterweight tournament, see what the fallout looks like, see who ends up shining at the end. And either way, I'm excited to go out there and get that lightweight strap. And then there's hopefully some big matchups after that. And I have continued to talk to Scott and Rich and these guys about signing big talent at 155. So we'll see. All
right, so let's talk about this. Brent Primus will be facing him December 14th at the Blaisdell Arena in Hawaii. You have fought twice since then. You've won both. He has not fought since you guys faced each other. Why? What do you make of that?
Well, I think the proof is in the pudding. We both have been fighting the same amount of time. Actually, I think he's been fighting 1 year longer than I have because he started an amateur career, and he has 8 fights and I have 22. He averages 0.4, 0.5 fights per year, basically. So he doesn't even average 1 fight per year. It's a little bit sad, to be honest with you. But good for him. He's put himself in a great situation. I gave him the opportunity to fight at Madison Square Garden, the most iconic arena in the entire world, and he went out there and was able to get a win over me in the biggest stage of both of our lives. And now he gets the opportunity to have a free Hawaiian vacation. He just has to get beat up to earn it. So it's everything's working out well for him. He's doing his thing. I'm on my way to the top, and I'm not really focused on talking about him is a little tough for me because first of all he can't defend himself. Because there's nothing really positive that he can say. There's nothing of substance that he can say that doesn't sound like complete BS because he is a part-time fighter and he doesn't fight a lot and he doesn't deserve to step in the cage with me. So I've gotten these over this last training camp. I've decided there's really not a ton of things to say about him besides the fact that I'm going to go out there and I've never actually wanted to inflict as much bodily harm on another individual as I do for this fight. I've always wanted to win. I've always wanted to be dominant. I've always wanted to score points. I've always wanted to be dominant, but I've never actually wanted to beat someone within an inch of their life and watch them gasp for air and question their whole entire life. This is that fight. This is the fight that is going to happen.
So what is it? Is it the sense that there's a rivalry there, that you haven't had the chance to get your title back, that it's you thought that the win was a fluke? Like, what is the source exactly of the animosity? Because maybe he was talking at first, but I haven't heard from him in a little bit of a while. So what is the source of the hostility?
I think, there is no rivalry. There is no, oh, this is going to be a good fight. Let's call a spade a spade. This is a world-class mixed martial artist going out there and fighting a guy who can't even hold his opponent's jockstrap. You know, that's what this is. And I'm going to go out there and finish him in the first round, and that's going to be that. But I think it's just a culmination of everything. The fact that I've had to wait for so long. I mean, most of the time when you have that kind of scenario happen, an injury is or a win is by the result of an injury. Most of the time, it's an immediate rematch, right? And we begged for the fight. I begged for the fight, and we just couldn't make it happen. So I fought the highest touted prospect in the lightweight division, in Goiti Yamauchi, beat him within an inch of his life, and then went out there and finished Brandon Gertz. Since then, as all the while begging to get this fight back, and the fact that he's been sitting up in Oregon, sitting on this belt, teaching kids jiu-jitsu is just—it's a travesty. It's holding up the division. He needs to just step into that cage, take his beating like a man that he is, and I just think that's what needs to happen, and it's going to be violent.
Well, you have certainly sold me. It's December 14th. Bellator and USO present Primus versus Chandler 2. It's the main event. It'll air on Paramount Network and DAZN. Michael Chandler, stay tan and jacked, good sir.
Hey, always, if you ain't tan and jacked, you ain't doing it right.
There he goes.